What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle for the first episode in our coverage of Life is Feudal Forest Village. So I had no idea that Life is Feudal was actually going to be like a universe of games. I thought that there was just like the one game and that was going to be it. Apparently, they're franchising in one way or another. If you played the original Life is Feudal, it was kind of like a mini MMO where you play just like a medieval peasant that could do whatever you wanted. You had to specialize into a job. I wasn't a giant fan of the game just because the pacing was a little slow for me, but I could see the appeal that it had for some people. Like, it was more of a personal thing than anything else. It's not that the game was bad, it's just that I personally wasn't a big fan. However, Forest Village is out, and this seems more up my alley if you like little civilization managers or city builders. Forest Village is exactly that. It's a game in which you've got to guide a little village full of people to fruition, make sure they don't starve during the winter, make sure that they got clothing and don't freeze, all that kind of stuff. The closest corollary that I could probably give you is something like Banished. If you like Banished, you will probably like what this game has going on. I've already played the tutorial. I played the game for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, so I've got a rough idea of what I'm supposed to be doing as I play. I don't think this will be an excessively long series, but it should be a fun one. So let's go ahead and check it out. We'll go new game. We gotta name it. I'm gonna call this Splattertropolis, which says all kinds of weird things about our culture. The map size will be normal. We will make this a plains map. That's to minimize the amount of terraforming that I have to do. The game does kind of get bogged down from time to time with terraforming because the buildings don't place kind of the way that I would want them to place. I'll explain that a little bit better down the line so that that's not left unexplained. But anyways, I'd like to keep terraforming to a minimum during this playthrough if I can help it, just because it takes a bit of time. Now, this does mean if we play on plains, the map is going to be a little bit uglier. It's not going to be quite as pretty of a map, but it should still be manageable, I think. Something like, oh, I don't know, that right there would actually be a fairly decent starting spot, assuming that that beach is not too small or too large. We can work our way down to here, and then once we get this all nailed, or we'll work our way to here, we'll get that all nailed down, we'll work around the edges, and then we'll focus on building up on the hills a little bit later on into the schedule. So I'm going to leave climate on mild, disasters are going to be left on as well, and then let's go ahead and load our map, and I'll give you a rough crash course for how the game functions as we get moving along, alright? Okay, so here's the generation of our little map. Now, the maps are standard in some ways. This almost always happens right here. So what you'll always end up with is like a village on a beach with like a little berm back here. I'm hoping that gets added. The game is in early access right now, but I'm hoping as time goes along, they'll give you different starting criteria where you can start in different spots, like in the middle of a forest or something like that. But this is what most of your starts are going to look like in this game from here on out. We need to get to this land over here. This land over here is like pristine. This is like the perfect shit over here for like farming and building a village and making sure that we got lots of wide open spaces to work with. For right now, we're going to be attack constrained because if anything is on a curve like this right here, we're not going to be able to build on top of it. And that's where the huge amount of terraforming in this game comes around to. I am not particularly a fan of that. I think that what they should do is they should make it a bit more accurate. What people used to do back in the day is they would just build on a hill like this. They would flatten it out a little bit. But what they would do is they would build the foundation outwards from the wall and flat so it would go straight out from the hill. And then they would just balance it off with little pegs or pylons or whatever. And that's how construction worked. It'd be easier if it worked like that. And actually, I think it would look a little bit more natural too, just having the village spread out along the hills and stuff like that. Instead, what you end up with right now is where you'll dig like big ditches out of the side of a hill. And it looks very, very unnatural. And it takes a lot of time. And anyways, just a little pet peeve of mine. Not a big deal. Just my 2 cents, since they wanted opinions from the player base. We got 3 shacks starting out right now. Everybody is female at the moment, so we've got an Amazonian village going on. Amazonian village, just full of shares. Big, tall, lanky women who take what they want. We've got a couple of houses here. We've got 1 homeless person. That's what that little icon means right there. We've got a barn, and we've got a warehouse. The warehouse stores our physical building materials. Our barn stores everything that is not a building material, like our tools, our clothing, our food, and all that kind of stuff. Because we have a homeless person, we're going to start out by building a house. I'm going to pause the game by pressing the space bar. WASD is how you move the camera around. Right click is going to allow you to rotate. It works exactly how you would expect it to work. It's very much easy to use. The menus down here that we have going on. So this menu, I'm going to get rid of you for right now because I don't need you. This on the left-hand side is going to be your menu. So if you need a menu of any kind that has like your population, your professions, your village info, your mini-maps, any menu and or map-related object you might need will be found in this bottom left menu. This one is for terraforming. You can flatten land, you can raise land, you can tilt land, and then you can create hills as well, whatever you are into there. We've got resource harvesting right here. We've got our house building, we've got our storage buildings, we've got our food gathering buildings, we've got our resource gathering buildings, which is a little bit different than manually grabbing our resources. We've got our municipal buildings, which are things like schools, libraries, taverns, medical places. We've got roads, and then, of course, we've got quitting the game over here for our other menu. And that's pretty much all that there is right now. The first thing that we need to build, though, is we need to get a house up and running. So I'm just going to build another little hovel over here. You see what I mean? It doesn't really like to build in these areas. And so you've got to like flatten this out a little bit. It might also be related to the amount of resources right there. So I may be actually complaining about things that I have not fully explored. It's possible. It's happened to me many, many times in the past. I'm going to go ahead and we'll build a house right there so that somebody's got a place to live, namely the homeless person, so they don't freeze to death in the night. In order to get this built, we've got to assign builders, which is actually fairly easy. We go to our population menu here with our professions. So it's the one with the little people on it. This is builder right here. We would just set up 2 of those. And so now we have 2 builders. You've seen this number right here. These are generic workers. They will do stuff like harvest resources and or like level out terrain and stuff like that. So if you're trying to get that done, be aware these guys do still have a function. So you probably want to have some people unassigned in the beginning. Otherwise, it's going to be tough to get things done. Let's speed the game up a little bit and we'll watch. They will clear out all of these little resources right here. And then we should have a house built very, very shortly. Aside from that, other things that we'll want to look after while we're inside of our villages, want to make sure we've got an early game food source. Early game food sources can be anything from like farms to gatherers' huts to what have you. I'm going to go with a gatherer's hut first. We're just going to put this right here, probably squared away alongside... That's a window right there. Alright, we'll have that squared away alongside our barn right here because they're going to be taking stuff to the barn. Anyways, that's going to allow them to go out and pick up fruits, grab nuts, giggity, and all that kind of stuff. You say, hey, peasant, go gather nuts. And they'll be like, yes, me lord! What nuts should we gather, me lord? Because they all sound like they're tall, masculine women, you know what I mean? They're lanky, they're survivors. They're built for wear. They're not going to get destroyed easily. Now we do need to assign some people to this over here. For the gatherer's hut, I would just say add 1 person. 1 gatherer should be good enough. We don't actually have that many people. Teenager Reagan has grown up and is ready to work. Fantastic. So Reagan is all ready to go. That should make that easier. The next thing that I would probably suggest we should get on building, and we should see somebody go over here. One thing you will notice is I love the level of detail on the characters. How like when they walk around, their outfits have little things hanging from their belt and stuff like that. If you wanted to play as one of the people, you can click on them, and you click on their portrait. You can actually walk them around, and you can be a part of the little society. I really hope this plays in later on. Once they add like military classes and stuff like that, it would be really, really cool to be able to like fight with bears and things of that nature, and just be a part of your little culture. See, she's got like a saw and like a hammer because she's a builder. It's cool. Like, I like how the people all have different stuff going on. I can't wait till they add the male models and the child models and everything like that in the future as well, because as of right now, there are only female ladies. You press escape to get out of that. It took me a minute to figure that out when I was playing. I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of a tutorial crash through as well, because I played the tutorial. It takes like 5 minutes. It seriously does not take that long. But if you wanted to drag the experience out and make it into like a 35-minute experience of me making fart jokes, okay, a 25-minute experience of me making fart jokes and otherwise, you know, go, yes, me lord, of course, gathering your stone, me lord, and doing goofy voices, then hey, we can do that right now. My dog totally thought I was talking to him right there. I feel bad. My dog looked over like, what did I do? He was in the middle of a nap. He looks super guilty now. He's like hanging his head. I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to do that to you. That's the tone that I use when I'm correcting him. And believe me, he's a puppy, so there's a lot of correcting going on right now. A lot of correcting. We got to get him... When he's bigger, he's potentially a dangerous breed, and so I've got to make sure that, like, I'm on it so that he's raised up well, and so I've been trying really, really hard to make sure that he does not become a killer adult who's just running around being hella rowdy. So now that we got the gatherer set all taken care of, who is our gatherer? Is there a gatherer inside of here? Is anybody gathering or doing anything of that kind? Yeah, there she is right there. So you see her knock over that bush. Swara, which is actually, that's an old Gaelic version of swearer. So she probably swears a lot. She's just walking around all the time. We got to keep the beeper live for that girl, because while she's gathering berries, every time she pricks her finger on a berry, you best believe she's about to be noisy as hell. I'm going to knock over all these trees over here. Let's go ahead and speed up time so that this gathering gets done. We do need a lot of wood for the future. In fact, I'm going to open that menu back up that tells me how much I've got stored. It's 11 degrees Celsius right now. We've got 7 adults, 2 children, and 1 infant, even though they all share the same model. We've got 2 people who are idle right now, not really doing anything. That's going to be our builders. And then nobody's hungry at the moment. Now, knocking these trees down, this should give us access to see if maybe we can build on this hillside. No, we cannot, is the answer to that question. And so things that we can do in order to make this a little bit easier on ourselves. Well, we can terraform this. And so if we go to this menu right here, we can take idle villagers, and we can have them kind of flatten this out. And so what I would do right here is it won't let me build right there because I'm on the ocean tiles. We could do something, actually it's going to need to be a little bit smaller. So we'll go in like, oh, and it dropped off my clicker. Maybe we'll go in something like so. And then after that point, we'll have the opportunity to kind of flatten it out and make it look a little better. It is going to look unnatural. There's not really much you can do about that. The terraforming in the system in this game is not super pretty. It stands out. I recall that being a thing in Life is Feudal, like the MMO game too, where on occasion the terraforming was a little odd looking, where you would have like patches of land that stood up like this right here. You see how it's going to like stand up and have like an edge or whatever. It did not look entirely natural when you were playing it there. The other thing we could do is we could just make a long run over to here and start building on this side, so that this will be kind of like a satellite area, a fishing village perhaps, that breaks off of our main village. That's also a total possibility, although it might make things a little bit disjointed. So just keep in mind that we can do that, and in fact I may actually focus on doing that. Let's go ahead and take this road over this way. We'll kind of take that up to there. And as they get that done, as you might notice, playing the game in fast forward definitely has an adverse effect on your frame rate, so be aware. There are little optimization things here and there that need to be worked on, but they are banging out that road right now. And I'll probably focus on moving people off to this side and just kind of seeing what happens there. I would like a command to sort of make things flush with like a lower altitude. So let's say that I go in, let me see if it's something that I can do before I say that I want to do it. So let's say that we got this right here. My preference would be, so that's building a slope, is it really? So let's say that I take that right there. Okay, so since it's already sloped, it doesn't want to do that. My thought was that maybe I could use that as a bevel or as a pivot right there, and I could take the slope and I could pivot it to even with this ground down here, was kind of what I was thinking. What if I do this right here? So that works a little better. That works a little better. I may do something like this right here. Give us a little bit of something to work with. Now it is going to take some time to get that done, be aware. And I would like it if they added maybe grid lines. I would love to see some grid lines added to the game. So now that I've put the job right there, I would like to see that yellow grid maybe turn green or something and stay on the ground while they work on it. That way I could plan other works around it without feeling like I gotta wait for it to be completed. Now that is going to take a bit to get done. It's going to take like a long bit to get that done. So while we wait for that to be accomplished, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to pause the game for a little bit. I'm going to let the game run on its own, and I'll see you on the opposite side. It's going to take a little while for this little civic development to be completed. I promise you it's going to take a bit, and you probably don't want to wait here for it to get done. So I will see you when it's finished, okay? So for the most part, it looks like this is done over here. I don't think anybody else is still working on it. I also had them even out this land up here, so you should see some diggers going up here and just working on moving soil around a little bit. Now, we don't have hunters or anything else, and what we want to look into is maybe like a year-round food source, because the Herbalist Lodge is only good until like winter. It's really not that great if you're stuck in fall or whatever else. So what we'll do for right now is we will consider the possibility of making a fishing lodge. That sounds good. A fisherman's hut actually will serve us well. Now the fisherman's hut place is kind of weird. You'll get a feel for it after you've done it a couple times, but it's basically a little bit off the edge. Let me rotate the camera so you can see it. It's a little bit off the edge of the land like so. And it took me a little bit of fiddling to figure out the direction that it needed to face, because I didn't know if maybe you walked on the dock out to it and it was like on the ocean or whatever. And so I know that the ladder is kind of indicative, but I didn't see the ladder, okay? You got to give me a break here. You got to give me a break. Drop that right there. Good. And then builders should be automatically assigned. The builders, they've been lazy layabouts anyways. Not like they've been doing much today. So we'll have to sprint off in that direction and take care of business. Next up on the list, I'd say, is probably not farming. Now, what the tutorial tells you to do is the tutorial tells you to run through and get farming up and running before fall and winter. That's probably a good idea. Having a food stock in before winter or whatever, when everything kind of goes fallow and doesn't provide you with that much food, probably a pretty good idea. But for now, wow, it's really foggy out here. It's like really, really foggy out here. There we go. It burns off in the midday. This will be nice for building right here. It looks like they got that flattened out right there. And what I was planning on doing with this is maybe putting a forester's lodge right here, and I'm actually really surprised that worked. Like, I am incredibly surprised that ended up working. I was not expecting that to work. The builders should go up there and get the forester's lodge going. Pretty sure the forester's lodge is basically to plant and cut down trees all day, every day. And then, if you have the lumberjack's lodge, as far as I know, it allows them to chop firewood. So every single house right here, once you get towards winter, is gonna need firewood, and we're not out of it, but we could definitely use more. We don't have anybody who's homeless, right? We don't have any fishermen. Give me a fisherman. We'll take one fisherman for now, because I don't know what our population's looking like at the moment. Let's go ahead and we'll manage that for a minute. So we got 4 generic workers left. 4 generic workers. I would probably be able to get away with 1 less builder, which would allow me to have 1 more fisherman. And what you'll see is they'll come down here to the docks and they'll just fish all day, every day. And honestly, this land seems to be like the land of milk and honey. In all fairness, it's tough in modern times to imagine, it really is, how fertile things were back in the day before we had essentially, like, destroyed the entire planet. Which is kind of where we're sitting right now. We've done a pretty good job of wiping out, like, everything in the ocean. Not a whole lot left in the ocean. You got about 40 years of ocean life left. Maybe 50 if we don't turn a corner. We've done a pretty good job at, like, wiping out both the ocean and the land. And so they have, like, back in the day, like in the 1700s, 1600s, when they first arrived, like in the Americas and South America and stuff like that, they have stories of you could just take a basket and you could drag it through the water and you would just come up with loads and loads of fish. People were in awe because people who had lived in cities in Spain and in England and Germany and stuff like that, they had never seen that kind of fertile land before because it was untouched by humanity, you know? We hadn't been there for so long, just fishing out the rivers and everything like that. This appears to be that kind of location. That's a lot of fish right there. That's like a ton of fish. So this should work out pretty well for us. And what you'll notice is they'll store up fish inside of here. Once this fills up, one of the fisher women will take this and she'll run it back to the barn, which is actually actively filling up right now. So we probably want to go out of our way to maybe make the barn a little bit. Did I get that lined up properly? I don't think I got that lined up properly. I'm going to have to figure this out. Let's make little roads in here. I'm a fan of roads. I try to build roads whenever I play games like this. You can't build roads over a bear. That's what I learned today. You can't build a road over a bear. It's just a natural law. It's a physics law. Take a look in your physics textbook. I promise you, it says that right there. It says, it's probably, I don't know who would name it. It's probably like, I don't know, Yogi's theory of bear relativity. You cannot build a road over a bear. It's just in the way. Forester, I don't know exactly what you do right now. So we can enable and disable tree planting. We can enable and disable tree cutting. Okay, so we'll have both of those go. We'll have 2 of our guys become foresters because I think that's going to be a very, very important thing because running out of wood actually seems like it's not going to happen. But it might as we get larger. I don't want to overestimate things. With Banished, my big problem I always had is I couldn't keep myself in firewood. No matter how many foresters I had, I would eventually hit like this critical mass point where I just no longer had enough space. What are we doing right now for the season? It is fall. It's 12 degrees, 9 adults, 1 child, and 1 baby. The question you got to ask yourself, though, is how tender. There's a wolf on the docks right now. I was like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, you know, I figured I'd just come over here and bare my fangs at you for a little while you fish. You don't mind, do you? I got a reputation to uphold. I'm like, all right, do what you got to do, man. Whatever makes you feel better among your wolf people. I'll never be the one to fade you, okay? I'll never be that guy. I ain't gonna fade you, G. Let's go over to this side. Why can't I build a road right there? Oh, that's upsetting. I want to build a road over there. Okay, well, we'll do a little footpath off in this direction. Then can I just not build right there? Oh. Alright, whatever, you know. That's chill. Come in like so, and then we'll drag a road back this way. Then we'll just make it all connect right there. There we go. so our city makes sense. It's got to have roads. How can it be a modern city? A modern for, I don't know, 890 AD. It's modern for antiquity. It's for antiquity, I guess. There. I got to vary my sentence out a little bit. Let's go time 5 speed. Get that road done as quickly as possible. And then I would love to see some more breeding getting done. In fact, I am very much a consumer of content which shows breeding happening. It, you know, I know what I like. I know what I like, and I'm not going to change it at this point in my life. We'll move the roads around a little bit, and then once those are done, it looks like they're going to chop down some trees and get some other stuff rocking. Now, I am glad that we found a solution for that right there, but I should have taken it all the way down to the road. I feel bad about the fact that it's got this divot on this side. I actually wouldn't hate the way that it looked if it went all the way down and was flush with the road. That would actually make a little bit of sense. If you look at like little lumber camps and stuff like this, sometimes they'll have like a little berm, like a little hill back here, you know what I mean? Forester's camp. I assume they're gonna like plant trees and stuff up here. I don't know what the baby trees look like. I assume just little versions of the normal trees. But for the moment, we'll put that back down on ×2. How's the road construction doing? Road construction's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. Now, I also wanted to mention that we can go through and we can upgrade these houses. I talked about it earlier. If you wanted to upgrade something, you click on it. It'll tell you what it requires. It needs some builders. It'll actually have capacity for 4 residents. It'll make people +5 happy. And then it'll have strength of 90. And it actually doesn't take that many materials. So I would suggest that we get down on that. It might not be a worthwhile upgrade, but you know what? The buildings will look cooler, they'll be a little bit larger, and they will house a few more peasants. Now, a lot of our people don't have homes right now. That's going to make them very, very upset. So hopefully we can fix that before anything else goes wrong. Kind of focusing on building roads right now. I don't think your characters actually care that much about roads. I would like to see some kind of, well, it kind of seems like they use the roads. Maybe? I don't know. We got to get the houses built before nighttime, otherwise everybody's going to freeze to death. And I will have made a poor decision with my management. Oh, good. They're not working on that like at all. Let's maybe then pause the game. Let's go over to here. We got a couple extra builders. Let's make a bunch of these guys builders for now so that this gets finished off faster. Come on. There you go. Bang out that house. And as you can see, it actually redesigns the building. It will look a little bit different when it comes out the other end. It'll be like an upgraded, more awesome version. There you go. And so now we've got 4 people living inside of that one. It looks like we've actually got some floaters too. People that may or may not be inside of there. Did this one actually get improved? I don't think that it did. Let's tell them to improve it. We'll do one building at a time. That is going to make some people homeless. But by the time it gets finished, I think it'll be pretty rad. We're out of time for the day. If you wanted to check out Life is Feudal Forest Village, feel free to swing on through and check it out. I think it's a pretty satisfying little game, and I'm looking forward to playing a good 15 episodes with all of you. Just kind of checking out all the buildings and stuff that you can have, and if they patch it along the way, they patch it along the way. I'll have a Steam link for you down below if you want to support the developers and get it for yourself and play alongside me. In the meantime, my name is Splattercat. Thank you for joining me here at the Nerd Castle for the next episode, the first episode of Life is Feudal Forest Village. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.